up, guys, and welcome back. We made it to the end of the 2024 NBA season. What a journey, what a ride. Too many storylines and moments and plays and reactions to handle. I feel like moments like these, it's so human to jump right into the reflection and the synthesis of what does everything mean, what should I try to remember, what shouldn't I, and that time will come. But what I want to do first and foremost is talk about the outcome of the NBA Finals, of course. We had the Boston Celtics finally getting over the hump with its core and winning the finals after losing 2 years ago, after making it pretty deep a handful of times with this same core. They finally get over the hump after adding some, in my opinion, extremely pivotal and imperative pieces in the offseason. To start very quickly with Game 5, it really came down to the end of the first quarter and mainly the end of the second. The game was over by halftime. The Boston Celtics end the first quarter on a 9-0 run. They end the second quarter on a 19-7 run against Dallas. It very much felt like one of those games where Dallas was trying super hard to just tread water and position itself within striking distance for Luka and Kai to jump in towards the end, as kind of they had been the whole series. But really it just felt like this time they just didn't have the energy or confidence or really just spirit and hope that they were going to win this from the jump. These runs really came from, in my opinion, a combo of fatigue and sort of lack of hope, but then also the lack of focus. Like how much energy and focus it took for Dallas to tread water even before these runs was so great that the moment there were a few mistakes in a row, a few turnovers, things like that, the Mavericks, they really couldn't keep pace with Boston. So let's start with Dallas, coming up, runner-up this season. Things that stood out to me were Josh Green coming up pretty big as far as the role players, the biggest question mark for the Mavericks, as always. He goes 4 for 4 from 3. Unfortunately, the rest of the others, as well as Kyrie, significantly struggle in the offensive sense of the word. Kyrie's curse in Boston, I think at this point is just real. I think we have to kind of acknowledge it. He has done such a good job retrofitting his reputation and image in the context of this pretty young Dallas team. I mean, most of the guys are about like 25 years old. And I think throughout the postseason, we saw a bunch of the narrative shifting for Kyrie and all of that. It's just kind of funny enough. Boston, I think the pinnacle of the anti-Kyrie that we got to know this season, where maybe a little more selfish, a little less of a team player, not on super great terms with the community and the fans and all those things. And so the overall trend of Kyrie really underperforming, particularly offensively in Boston. The fans are booing him, chance of Kyrie sucks, like clearly didn't end well. At this point, that is a thing. That is real. And I think that it's deeper than basketball, especially given how much Kyrie has talked openly about growing up in this league and changing his outlook and mindset on certain things and how he's trying to play a different role on this different team that he hadn't before, that kind of thing. It just feels like Boston is a little bit haunting to him. If Kyrie's struggling, the others are struggling. What have I been saying? Luka's going to start to chuck, and that's what happened. He started chucking shots, especially pull-up threes. Luka ends up struggling as well. I think when they were able to string together stops that they needed to mount some kind of a comeback, you had Luka taking really early pulls early in the clock, deep shots, just settling. Really just felt like the quintessential superstar trying to drag a team to victory. Kyrie and Luka go 17 for 41 from the floor. That's 41%. And then the others go 18 of 37, which is 49%. But for me, the big thing is with Dallas is always going to be the three-point percentages, and you had Kyrie and Luka combining for 5 for 18 from 3, which is only 28%, and then the others go 6 of 19 from 3, 32%. And if you know anything about Dallas at this point, it is that they need to establish the perimeter first, which then unlocks the paint. And, even in game 4, when Dallas finally roared back, it was because the others were hitting outside shots. That is why Dallas was able to pummel the Boston Celtics in the paint, is because they established, hey, we can make shots from the outside. Now you can't collapse fully on Luka and Kyrie. I think that Dallas should be really proud of what they were able to accomplish this postseason. Coming into the postseason, given their age, playing a full-on rookie, heavy playoff rotation minutes, bringing in 2 starters who had 0 playoff experience whatsoever, only like 5-ish months that they had to gel together and build cohesion and chemistry. Of course, whatever the knee injury to Luka has been, that had him bleeding through his leg warmer all playoffs, which is really gross. I'm not a doctor, but the just number of times that dude has just bled from his knee, like bled. If you bleed through shit like that, I'm at this point, I'm honestly just curious, like, what it is. I don't think there's been reporting released yet, but the sheer number of times this guy's just bled through his leg warmers and his tights is just nuts. So I thought that was insane. They really did an incredible job of building a strong cultural foundation, and that manifested in a variety of ways. I really like the huddles on the court that you saw them doing when things were getting out of hand, particularly in the Western Conference Finals. I think the finals was a little bit of a bigger imbalance and, a lot more fatigue and things like that. But I love seeing that, and I loved hearing a lot of the comments that you heard from the Mavericks throughout the postseason. And a new one we got that I really liked was from Josh Green last night, where he pointed out, hey, we just have a lot of international guys where real family is really far away. And to have teammates like this as stand-ins for our family is everything. I think everybody just tends to overlook the fact that Dallas does have a ton of international guys, with Luka, Green, Exum, Maxey as well. Saw the storyline with Derek Lively, unfortunately losing his mother, and how the guys really seem to galvanize around that and really take him under their wing. Lively being super vocal and just seeming to be just a great team player as is was great. And that's not even mentioning this whole redemption arc for Kyrie Irving, which he literally used the term redemption arc in his postgame last night as a reason for why this postseason run was his favorite that he's ever had. I just thought that was really important to call out. Like that's just really cool. Green, PJ, Luka, Kyrie. I think that those are the guys that had the postgames, but on top of all that, there's just a lot of optimism. Like, yeah, it sucks to lose. It really does. But I think Dallas can't be too down on themselves, and that's why they should be super proud of this run, is like, number one, all the reasons that I just laid out: age, experience, Luka was hurt, lack of chemistry building, etc. The fact that they were able to galvanize and rally around each other as much as they did and come out and play as hard as they did, etc. Having PJ Washington step up in the OKC series. Gafford had his energy moments. Lively is maybe the most impactful rookie in a very long time. I don't know. That's another question we need to look into. But they lost to a team that lost like they just did. They lost to a Boston team that had been together for 7 years with their core, had probably overachieved too early, had guys in the rumor mill and the media spotlight for years on years and all of the things going around there, righted their own ship and narratives, and their GM and owner, etc., was able to finally pull the right levers and make the right changes for them to get over the hump. But this specific experience is what makes champions. And so I think given all of those reasons that maybe Dallas overachieved this year, I think losing at this stage kind of just makes all of this even better for Dallas. Like, think about it. It's almost like they just pressed fast forward on their evolution timeline in your biology textbook, where, I don't know, like if they go down, if Denver pulls that off in Game 7 in the second round, and they're up against Denver in the Western Conference Finals, I'm not super confident, to be honest with you, that Dallas pulls off that win in the Western Conference Finals and they even get the experience of going up against whoever in the finals. All of that attention, all of that overcoming adversity, and all the moments that go into that, like, you need to go through these types of tribulations to ultimately come out the way that Boston did in this specific instance. Let's talk about what we learned, if we're Dallas here, about this sort of experience when it comes to the basketball. Just like Denver with Minnesota, and how Minnesota was basically designed to stop Denver, all of that length and height, still mobile bigs, great defense, that kind of thing. Dallas met its schematic match tonight. Its whole system of a two-headed, world-class point guard dominated monster of Luka and Kyrie, and a bunch of role players that are just execution oriented, not initiation, but execution. There is a limit to how effective that approach can be, even with the best of the best behind the controls. Be it against Boston or, in my opinion, honestly, anyone else, because I think the offense is only going to become more and more of basically a requirement to even compete and stay on the floor. So Luka and Kyrie will meet their match and struggle to score and produce offensively along the way of a deep playoff run. That is fact, and you have to just acknowledge that. Obviously, we saw Kyrie have a much lower floor than Luka, and there are a variety of reasons in that. That reality becomes the crux of everything. So how you prepare for / respond to those moments in matchups where Luka and Kyrie physically cannot initiate every single thing for your team on offense. Boston had 2 all-defense point guards to match up against Luka and Kyrie Irving. Yes, Boston switches a lot, but think about who else they have. Typically, what Luka and Kyrie like to do is get their mismatches on, slow-footed bigs or undersized guards, and Dallas did not target the Al Horfords nearly enough, and Boston smartly put Horford on Derrick Jones Jr., who is not going to be able to set really great screens to begin with, as well as kind of taking away the rim running and all of those things. So there are counters to that. But my point is, there was no Rudy Gobert for Luka to light on fire, right? There was no super slow-footed Karl-Anthony Towns who can't really move very fluidly. When you go up against the teams like the Bostons, like the Los Angeles Clippers, where it's just a bunch of guards, it's a bunch of switchable guards, defensively very smart, very heady, very handsy, that is how you beat Dallas. And if you don't have a really clear, easy entry point, be it an undersized guard or slow-footed big, Dallas is going to struggle. And you're inevitably going to get a matchup that brings that. So then what? I think ultimately you need either more consistent perimeter shooting or more initiation capabilities on the floor. Hey, Derrick Jones Jr., let's get you mentally mapping the spacing for our team and getting good at making the extra pass and, where are you going to relocate if you do that and, all that shit. It's understandable. You wouldn't even think about doing that. Well, now we've seen the ceiling. We've seen it. And unfortunately, I think it's abundantly clear at this point, Dallas is really only going to get as far as its role players will provide them, mostly on offense, provided, again, the defensive floor is going to be there. When I say initiation skills, I don't mean just dribble in and out between the legs on the perimeter and trying to take guys off the dribble. We saw that a couple times last night, what happens when PJ tries to do that, as well as D. Jones, and, unfortunately, they just don't have those skills right now. But I mean things like PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., attacking closeouts, knowing when to slash into open space when Luka and Kyrie do get a few feet even inside the perimeter, basically being able to read what the defense is trying to do and take away from Luka and Kyrie, guys that are helping so much off of them, collapsing if they get too deep, or otherwise just hanging out in the driving gaps. Granted, Boston was playing one-on-one, but they really weren't. They were playing one-on-one with guys sitting in the gaps, so they're not blitzing and double-teaming to get the ball out, but they're just there loading up and waiting. Are you going to pass it to Derrick Jones? Do you really trust him to make this wide open shot? PJ, Derrick Jones Jr., Josh Green, even Maxi Kleber, who just seems so light on his feet for his size. The guy is 6'10", literally under the basket from a Luka missed chip shot, and he didn't even look at the rim. I think particularly with him, but really goes for all these guys because they're all either hyper athletic. No, they're all hyper athletic basically and long. Slashing specifically is a really great way where if your shot isn't falling, you can make things easier for yourself. It takes a level of aggressiveness and willingness to maybe get contact and physicality. That is by far, I think, the biggest thing. Attacking closeouts and making passes out of that, not just trying to score every single time, timely slashing in accordance to what the defense is trying to do to stop Luka and Kyrie, relocating, depending again on that defense, where they come, where is the help coming from, where are different guys coming, maybe to blitz Luka, Kyrie. What does that mean for me? Oh, we got an offensive rebound. Where should I be relocating to? These are the types of heady plays that guys like Sam Hauser, for example, Isaiah Joe on Oklahoma City, these guys are so smart. And it's not from making incredible Luka Doncic passes. It's understanding what is going on everywhere outside of them and how and where they should be positioning themselves to best equip their team. And then last but not least, I thought the offensive rebounding is atrocious. You can't just have Josh Green and Derek Lively as really the only guys trying to rebound at all offensively against a team like Boston. And especially in a game where Jrue Holiday is out offensive rebounding you as a team by himself. Those are the initiation capabilities. I think as well with the outside perimeter shooting is another viable option, but variant shooting just kind of is what it is. If you have better perimeter shooting, it makes it harder to obviously load up in the driving gaps to try to thwart Luka and Kyrie like Boston was able to, because they can make the pass one pass away. Derek Jones Jr. If you replace Derek Jones Jr., for example, with Max Strus, the worst season of his career from the three-point line, fair. But you know what? He is guarded like he's young Klay Thompson. And that ultimately ends up mattering the most. Guaranteed, if Max Strus was on the Mavericks, they are not helping that far off. And Luka probably is able to do a ton more damage at collapsing the Celtics, right? Given how short of time they had together, just the level of supreme athleticism that this roster has, it makes me lean towards the latter, towards the initiation capabilities. Like, hey, this offseason, training camp, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna build chemistry, but not in a, hey, this is where I'm gonna sit stationary the entire play regardless of it. No, it's gonna be, this is our spacing that we ideally want. If X happens, like we get an offensive rebound, then Y. Right? It's like, where is the spacing going to evolve to, probably? And also, when can I slash in for easy buckets, right? Because so much of defending Dallas is perimeter oriented. It's always been that way. They like to par PJ in the corner, like all those things. And I think that just means there's even greater opportunity for higher potency slashing and cutting in a vacuum. And then you add supreme athletes like PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr. I'm just like, you should be getting like 3-4 layups a game. Even Josh Green too, because you have one of the greatest players on the planet. He's not a dynamic, quick twitch, in and out, Anthony Edwards type of player. He's methodical, whatever, which I think even makes it easier to lull the defense to sleep because everybody needs to be paying attention to him to begin with, but then he's also pretty slow and methodical. So then it's like, as soon as he does the Nikola Jokic, like picks up the dribble, takes 1-2 steps, everything collapses, and that's all he needs. And then it's like, bam, all right, PJ Washington cut it from the corner. That's a lob. It's over. It's over. So that's why I think Dallas has just really got to just build chemistry. I think first and foremost, here's the spacing. When Luka's on this side of the floor, this is who's going to be over there. This is where they should be. This is when to cut. This is what he's looking for. This is where exactly to cut. If we get an offensive rebound, where is the other guys going to be? Where should guys be relocating? All of those things. And that goes for the centers, too. One of their biggest sort of shortcomings, I would say, is for all of the incredible lob finishing and defense that Lively and Gafford presented, even when doubling Luka and Kyrie, as we saw in the Minnesota series, Gafford can't dribble, Lively can, but again, it's just kind of just the familiarity with everything else where Gafford can make that split-second read, or Lively can make that split-second read. If Luka gets doubled and PJ just darts right over for the classic Draymond Green to Gary Payton, Draymond Green to whoever lob along the baseline, that should be in the repertoire of this team. Because again, of the outside-in system that they have in place where defenses are so focused on that. I think overall the most important question becomes, can Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington develop these skills with practice, or is a trade necessary? They have an absolute steal with Derrick Jones Jr. I think he was super well embraced by the team. I think defensively, he is exactly what Dallas wants. You know, don't need to suck oxygen out of the room. Primary on-ball defender, someone who takes pride in that realm. But it's become clear against teams with this 5-out capability, teams with all this initiation, potency, and all these guard skills throughout the roster and the switchability and all that. You need both of those guys to be more than stationary rise and pull shooters. And so that's where I get, can PJ Washington learn how to cut baseline and finish lobs? Can Derrick Jones Jr. time his slashes away from Luka as he's drawing a double team by going into the motion of a turnaround or whatever? Can these guys present different threats, particularly when their shots aren't falling? I think that's going to be really the crux, because Lively is fantastic, Gafford's fantastic, Luka, Kyrie fantastic. It really, to me, comes down to the wings, I don't think PJ is going anywhere. I think his defensive versatility, his energy, his just physical profile is just absolutely perfect. He's an incredible, incredible power forward. And so really it's that Derrick Jones. Crazy names that I think of is like Jalen Williams in Oklahoma City, incredible right defender. I think he shot like 41% from three. That's an incredible build, like a two-way wing, can take really tough defensive assignments, probably the most tough assignment, ranging from 1 to 3 on the opposing team, but then also be able to hit open threes at a higher rate than Derrick Jones Jr. was able to this year, but then also is able to provide a meaningful juice when it comes to the initiation side. And yes, attacking closeouts is great, but look at Royce O'Neal. He's basically a guard, and his whole thing is he can knock down open shots, he can do pull-up, couple dribble, kick out. That secondary playmaking, literally think, is the difference between beating a team like Boston, or God forbid the Clippers are healthy next year, but the Clippers as well. That is what is required. All right, guys, that is it for today. Hell of a season, hell of a finals. We will definitely have more stuff coming out this summer, in the off season, philosophical questions to answer, maybe some research studies, things like that. So definitely stay tuned, but it goes without saying, an enormous, tremendous thank you to everybody who tunes into these videos. This is my first half season of kind of doing this whole thing, and so incredible experience so far. And, I just hope I've been helpful. All right. Thank you guys again, and until next time.